Station Houston on Space to Ground 2. You like the framing? Are you ready for the event? Museum of Flight, this is Houston. Please call the station with a voice check.
Station, this is the Museum of Flight at Boeing Field. How do you hear me?
Museum of Flight, we have you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station. It's good to talk to you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce members of Expedition 28 coming to us live from the International Space Station. Let's start the questions.
Hello, my name is Alex Wenzel from Aviation High School in Seattle, Washington. And the first question is, how does the crew from such diverse backgrounds cope with their differences in language and culture?
Well, Alex, that's a really good question, and I think the main thing for us is, we have a common goal, and so when you have a common goal, then you can overcome anything. Language difficulties, differences in culture. We had 15 nations that came together to build this incredible orbital research facility that we presently call home, and we did that with these different diverse nations because we all shared that common goal. And it's the same for us up here as crew members on the International Space Station. Is we're all in this together. We all understand that we've got to get the job done, and we work very well together because of that, because we share that common goal, that common objective. So that's the main thing that helps us overcome those language challenges, etc.
My name is Raymond Kenworthy of Puyallup High School, and this question is for Mike Fossum. How do you overcome the mental aspects of living in space, such as fatigue, being with the same people for extended periods of time, and or missing family and friends?
Hey, that encompasses a lot. Like Ron said, as far as the different cultures getting together, it's respect and it's a common goal, and we all have that. We've dreamed about doing this since we were your age, and we've worked for it in our years in high school and college, and the jobs beyond that to prepare ourselves for this opportunity. And so, in a huge way, we're living our dream right now. And part of that is working together. It is separation from family, and for almost 6 months. And really, when you include the time that the three of us spent in Russia preparing to fly before we left to come up here, it's really gone from home for 7.5 months or so. So it's really a long haul, but we're here living our dream. We have a goal, we have a mission, and we're really busy. And that's a good thing because there's enough time to look out of the window, but we have a lot of very interesting work and very challenging work. And so that keeps us involved from the moment we wake up in the morning until we go to bed at night.
Hello, my name is Kirsten Lime from Ingram High School in Seattle, Washington, and my question is for Satoshi Furukawa. Does the crew eat meals together, and how do you decide what to eat?
Okay, that's a good question. We do. U.S. segment crew members eat meals together unless we are very busy. We each eat breakfast in the morning because in the morning we are very busy. And here are some food examples. Tortilla, chocolate pudding.
That doesn't look like tortilla.
And we can take whatever we like from the containers. And sometimes we eat our favorite food, and sometimes we need to eat something we like a little because we need to pay attention to a nutritional balance. Plus, we can open a new container only after emptying the current one. And we, together with Russian crewmates, eat meals together several times a week. And we sometimes exchange U.S. and Russian food and enjoy meals.
My name is Kira Thrush from Tacoma High School, and my question is for Ron. If any technology, medical or mechanical, could be developed to make training and transition from Earth to space easier, what would you use it for and why?
Wow, that's a really tough question. I think the biggest transition from a physical point of view that we have to make is going from 1G to 0G, from going to what everybody experiences on the Earth to being weightless. And so that's a big transition. That's a big adjustment for our bodies. And we have aircraft that we fly parabolars. Basically, we climb very steeply and then we push over and then dive back down. And at the top of that, like the top of a roller coaster, we're floating in the aircraft. So that's a way that we can practice some of our experiments, work out some of the equipment that we have, some of the hardware that we have, to make sure that's all going to work in a weightless environment. But I think the bigger transition for us, long duration crew members, us that have been up here a long time, is the transition to go back to Earth. So when we go from this weightless environment we've been in for 5 to 7 months, and we get back to the Earth, the body adjusts to being up here. And one of the things it does is it realizes it doesn't need a skeleton anymore, and it doesn't need muscles that as much, as strong muscles anymore. So we have to exercise 2 hours a day so that we can prepare ourselves to return to Earth. And so there's a lot of equipment we use up here. There's a lot of medical procedures, physical training equipment and medical equipment that we use to make sure that our bodies will be prepared when we return to Earth. So really good question.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Stroming from Liberty High School in Issaquah, Washington, and my question is for Mike. Even after all your preparation for your mission, is there anything that surprised you about the space station or living in space in general?
Hey, Jeremy, that's a great question. For me, I had 2 space shuttle missions before this. Each of them, they were about 2 weeks in duration, so I'd had a total of a month in space before I arrived here to live on the space station for almost 6 months. I thought I knew all about living and working in space, and it amazed me how much I've learned about just how to move. When you first get here, you're really clumsy. You're bumping into things. You have a hard time controlling your body. And you see us now. I mean, we're not really standing here. We're floating. And I can take Satoshi, and I can lift him up, and I can pull him down and move him around. But you're using your feet to grab onto things, and you're looping your feet underneath handrails and other things to hold on. And just how much more smoothly I can move through. And after being up here, 3 months already, I can feel, myself moving more smoothly through the space station. It's still hard to work on things. I like working in the garage and working with tools, and I lay everything out, and I've got the parts out and my tools out. And here, it's just hard because everything's floating, and you have to relearn how to work on things. So for me, that's the biggest challenge.
Hi, my name is Cadet Master Sergeant Nicole Gromolski from Fairchild Air Force Base Composite Squadron in Spokane, Washington. This question is for Satoshi. Sir, if you were to select the most beautiful place on Earth based on what you see from orbit, where would that be?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Well, it would be a night city view under aurora. Curtain-like green or red aurora sways and dances in the polar region, plus beautiful night view of cities. From the International Space Station, it is a breathtaking view from over aurora.
Hi, my name is Karn Singh from Aviation High School, Seattle, Washington, and this question is for Ron. How does the Earth-based preparation for performing experiments in space differ from their performance in space?
Well, one of the challenges that we face is, our training sometimes is very, very long before we actually do the experiments on orbit, and sometimes we don't even know exactly what experiments we're going to do before we leave. So that's part of utilizing and getting the most use out of this facility that we have up here, is to be flexible. And so instead of training for specific experiments, a lot of times we get skills on how to do a series of different types of experiments. And so that's one of the big things we do on the ground is we learn about the different experiment racks that we have. We've got combustion facilities, we've got protein crystal growth facilities, fluid experiment facilities, a whole big wide variety of different type of experiments that are conducted on board here. And so we have to be a little bit familiar. I mean, we're not the experts in all these different experiments, but we have to have a basic knowledge of all of them. So that's kind of the approach that we take, is to get a broad knowledge of all the different type of experiments that we could possibly perform while we're up here. Great question.
I'm Will Muser from Seattle, and I go to Aviation High School in Seattle. This question is for Mike. What are the roles of astronauts and pilots in a field that increasingly depends upon unmanned or remote-controlled missions?
Now, that's a really good question, because the whole field, the whole concept of remote-controlled robotic kinds of missions is changing, and it certainly is in the world of aviation just in the last 10 years or 15 years, where remotely piloted vehicles and things like that are taking on a bigger and bigger role. But I'll give you a good example, and it's taking place just outside this window behind us right now. There's a special purpose dexterous manipulator, a very, very complicated tool. It's a wonderful tool, and it's over the course of 2 days here, it's changing out a power switch. It's kind of a complicated little power control box. It's about that big, that's on the outside of the space station, and it takes it really about 2 days to get in position, get everything lined up, and it's a very slow and tedious. Ron and I are both spacewalkers. We've done 4 spacewalks together, and that task as a spacewalk task for us is about 30, 45 minutes. So, that's kind of the difference, is that the human in the loop can really understand, feel it, make decisions, and adjust very rapidly. And our ability to get the robots to control that way is still in process. And there's always the value for getting human eyes and human hands and a human brain in the middle of the problem and the challenge. Now, there's some places where that's not appropriate. We're glad to have the robot outside. It doesn't look like a robot. That's not Robonaut that you might see on the news. But we're glad to see the robotic manipulator outside that's doing that job, because it's risky doing the spacewalks too, and this is a perfect task for it to do. But it's an example where if speed was important, you'd be sending the 2 of us outside to do it instead.
Hello, I am Civil Air Patrol Cadet Airman Cheshire from Olympia Civil Air Patrol Squadron, and this question is for Satoshi. How have the advancements in technology affected life on the ISS since it was first launched until now?
Okay, that's a great question. Advancements in technology made the life on the ISS better and more comfortable. It is like the advancements in technology changed our daily life from 13 years ago. For example, the personal computers have made great progress, and the CPUs got much faster, and now the wireless access to a server is available on board the ISS as well. And cameras became more higher specifications, and we now have higher resolution, more sensitive cameras than before, and we can take high resolution pictures of night views from the International Space Station. And plus, advancements in science have us perform more up-to-date research on the ISS. Thank you for the great question.
Hi, I'm Civil Air Patrol Cadet Technical Sergeant Chris Garcia from the Fairchild Composite Squadron in Spokane, Washington. And my question is for Ron. Is it easy to see from orbit which parts of the planet have people using natural resources and which parts have people showing restraint?
Yeah, well, at night you definitely can see because you see the lights. So it's the Earth really when we cross into the dark side of the orbit, the Earth just comes alive. I mean, it's just amazing to see the lights. But obviously, each of those lights represents civilization, and you can definitely see the results of human impact on our planet. You can see it in the forms of erosion. You can see it in the forms of pollution. We've been seeing a lot. At this time of year, we see a lot of smoke. A lot of fields are being burned throughout, all across the world, and so that is very, very visible from space. And so we definitely, if we were visitors here and just decided to come into orbit, we would definitely know that there were people down there, that there was life down there, because you could definitely see the impact.
Hi, my name is Max Wasser. I go to Ballard High School in Seattle. This is for Mike. What advice would you give to a high school student who wants to become an astronaut and work aboard the ISS?
That's easy. In short, work hard. Follow your passion. We have very different backgrounds. Ron was a test pilot, a fighter pilot, and a test pilot. I'm an engineer, a flight test engineer in the Air Force. And Satoshi is a medical doctor. Very different backgrounds. And the astronaut corps and cosmonaut corps are made up of people from a lot of different backgrounds. There's no one specialty that says, okay, that's what you do to be a crew member in space. We have different kinds of people with different science backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, some military, many not military, some pilots or other flyers, and many not. So there's lots of different backgrounds. The key thing is follow your passion. Don't go be an astronautical engineer because you think that's got astronaut in it. It doesn't. If you're really interested in metals and strengths of materials and stuff, go be a metallurgist or a mechanical engineer and be the best at whatever it is that you choose to do, because that's what really is important, is standing out as one of the best in your field. You can only be the best if you're passionate about it, if you're following something that you really want to do. Then you can be the best, and you're going to stand out in that career field and give you a shot at this one. There's no guarantees, but you're also going to enjoy the ride a lot more than doing something you don't really want to do. So enjoy the ride.
Hi, my name is Gina O'Kelly. I'm from Aviation High School, and this question is for Satoshi. How has your perspective of Earth and life on Earth changed since you have been on the International Space Station?
Well, that's a good question. When I looked out of a window of an International Space Station, I was touched with thin blue layer of atmosphere at the rim of Earth. I understood that the beautiful atmospheric layer protects us and Earth from harsh environment in space. And I realized that we needed to preserve our mother planet Earth's natural splendor. Thank you.
My name is Surbi Ghadia. I'm from Aviation High School in Seattle, Washington, and my question is for Ron. How often do experiments give unexpected results?
Well, unexpected results are usually the best results. That's why you do the experiment in the first place, because if you already knew the answer, you wouldn't be doing the experiment. So it happens. We've had some fluids experiments that are basically going to change the way we change our understanding of how fluids react. And we've had some other experiments where we've really discovered things that we didn't know existed. And so whenever we have these experiments that give us something a little different, that's always exciting for us up here, and it's exciting for everybody on the ground. And it's one of the joys of being up here and being in this very, very unique environment, because the experimentation that we do up here, the research that we do up here, can only be done up here. It can't be done anywhere else. This is a very, very unique environment, and that's why we've put so much effort into building it, is so that we could have these unexpected results, these results that we couldn't duplicate on the Earth. So great question. Thank you.
We certainly want to thank the crew of Expedition 28 for welcoming us aboard the International Space Station today. And more importantly, I want to thank all of you as well for being here and sharing with us this very special event. I want to mention also that there will be additional space-related activities and presentations in the side gallery and the Murdoch Theater between 11 o'clock today and 1 p.m. So thanks very much, and let's show our appreciation to the crew of Expedition 28.
Well, thanks to everybody. It was great speaking to everybody today. Those were absolutely outstanding questions. It's obvious you put a lot of work and thought into those questions. It really warms our heart to hear how much interest everybody has in what we're doing up here, and we hope that you guys follow in our footsteps and be the next generation of explorers. And remember, science, technology, engineering, and math are really important, not only for your future but for the future of our planet. So please work hard in those areas, in all the areas. And it was great talking to everybody.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank y'all.
Thank you to the Museum of Flight, and ISS will now be resuming operational space-to-ground communications.